It's 5 o'clock on your Thursday afternoon now. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Captain Dave punching the buttons. Terry Ford expected fashionably late as always. Though today, Dave, maybe Terry's not fashionably late. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk about men's basketball, which if that's true, I don't blame him. Because last night was brutal. You've been around South Carolina for a long time. You've been around South Carolina athletics for a long time. That's about as big of a gut punch as I could imagine. What we saw last night.
It was pretty bad, and I've got to say that I saw a lot of people online saying, "Well, this is what Gamecock basketball is," and you look at our history, and maybe it is a little bit.
Yeah, it's. And again, you have been around this program a lot longer than I have, but I can understand the sentiment of here we go again. You're having a bad season, or at least a bad stretch in conference play, when after the game I'm debating, which of these losses hurt the worst? Because it's one thing to get just drugged, right? Like, Mississippi State beat you by 35 points. Like, that sucks because you clearly just got dominated on the court. But when you are leading a top 5 team for 38 and a half minutes, they did not take the lead until 5 seconds ago. First time in the entire game that they led. But that was enough because at the end of the day, the only score that matters is the one when the clock hits all zeros and Florida walks out with a 1-point victory, and Carolina is now the lone team without a win in conference play because Arkansas got past Georgia last night. So it ain't a fun place to be at the bottom.
It sure isn't, and it's very frustrating. And, the bad thing, like you said, I mean, if you get that close, it seems like we've got a good team in there that just can't get it done.
That's the thing. And look, playing on the road in the SEC is not easy. As you've seen through the first couple weeks conference play, road teams have a tough time. I mean, God, Tennessee is the number 1 team, went on the road to play Florida a couple weeks ago and looked like they didn't know how to play basketball at all and got beat by 30 points. So anytime you have a game at home, no matter who the opponent is, you're going to have some kind of shot. And in these past couple of weeks, we've seen between, at the time, number 2 Auburn, and now last night against number 5 Florida, Carolina did so many things right to put themselves in position to win the game. And when it came down to the very end, they couldn't get it done. The fundamentals went out the window. What they were doing so successfully in the first half of the game, they couldn't replicate in the second half. Look, turnovers have been a problem with this team, specifically in conference play. And watching the game last night, as I'm watching basketball games, I take notes just on when things happen and stuff like that to obviously help better prepare me for coming in here and, and talking about them the next day. I get to my notes here. So as I'm watching this game, I noted, let's see here, in the first half, their first turnover was with 9:22 left to go until halftime. So they effectively went almost 11 whole minutes without turning the ball over. And foreshadowing here, it was a bad Zach Davis pass that Florida picked up in transition and went down and threw down for a dunk. But again, they only had 3 turnovers in the first half, which compared to what you've done the last couple games, phenomenal. You had 16 or whatever it was in the first half against Vanderbilt and 25 for the entire game. So I go into halftime thinking, man, things are looking up for this team because it looks like they got away from the mistakes they were making over the past couple of games. Didn't get to the line a whole lot, so I wasn't putting a whole lot into the free throws at that point in time, though that did end up, becoming a problem towards the end of the game. But man, something about that final 9-minute stretch, the wheels just came off, man. I mean, South Carolina's biggest lead of the game was 14 with 12 minutes to go. A few minutes later, it is 8:49 left to go in the game. Carolina has a 13-point lead, so it's second biggest lead of the entire game. And that's when things started going wrong. And you could almost see it on their faces, right? Like when you're playing well, you can see confidence in somebody on the court, on the field, on the diamond, or whatever it may be. When things are going wrong, you can see the fear in people's eyes. And as well as Zach Davis had played from an offensive standpoint, when it came to scoring and all that kind of stuff, defensively, you could see the fear in his eyes in those last 9 minutes as he continued to make turnover after turnover after turnover. And in those last 9 minutes, or 8:49 of the game, Carolina outscored 25-11, turned the ball over 9 times, 5 of which were Zach Davis, who, again, looked like for a lot of the game was going to be the hero of the night. Dude sinking threes, scoring 22 points. Like when they upset number 5 Florida, we're going to be talking about Zach Davis having the game of his career. But it comes down to him in those final 9 minutes, and he made more mistakes than anybody else and ended up helping cost this team the game.
There's a thing, and if you've played basketball at any level, you watched last night, and you get it. But any sport. And I always say this, and look, I love analytics, man. I do. I spend way too much money on it.
We all do.
Whether it's pro
and the company
football.
doesn't compensate us for that, by the way.
They should. There should be some kind of like analytics thing in all of our work agreements.
That'd be nice.
And we get the money back for all these goofy websites that we're spending $4.99 and $9.99 a month for.
When we restructure our $1 million contracts, we'll make sure that's included next time.
When our agents... When our agents show up,
agents would laugh at us.
Jimmy Sexton. Yeah,
if we went to agents with what we command, they would laugh at us.
It would be funny. Yeah, I want you to renegotiate my deal. What are you making? You know what 3% of that is?
You want a third penny? Okay.
That's right. It's like, dude, I don't start my car for that little bit commission, pal. Get out of my office. But it's whenever you play sports, and we talk about analytics all the time. One thing is, I always say this about analytics. It doesn't judge the fact that human beings play sports.
Right. Numbers are not biased.
No. And if you watch how people play at money time or when the game is tight and close, that's a thing. Like baseball. And I go, analytics people push back on me on this, and as much as I dig the numbers, I always like to look, what do guys do late in games? What do guys do at the plate with runners on base late in a contest? Like, what do you do in the 9th inning?
Yeah.
What do you do? You're down by a run, man on third, 1 out, 9th inning. And
you know that the game is in your hands.
Yes.
Because if it's the 3rd inning, you obviously want to drive in some runs, but the pressure's not there.
No, you feel totally different. And this is South Carolina this season, and we're going to dive into it a little bit more later. These guys last night for 30 some odd minutes.
They led for 38-32.
Yeah. And I'm trying to make a cutoff in my head, but let's just say for 37 minutes. Then the turnover started at the 9-minute mark of the second half.
Yep.
But they were still making shots until you got to the last couple minutes of the game. All of a sudden, nobody wanted the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to take a shot. Nobody wanted to touch the damn thing. Matter of fact, it was like a hand grenade. Everybody was ready to rock and roll for 37, 38 minutes. Give me the ball, man. I'll make a play. I'll get it to you. I'll take a shot. When you're putting up shots with 8 minutes gone in the first half, totally different than putting up a shot with 37 seconds left in a game where you're only leading by 1.
Yep.
And the thing about this team this year, and I'll focus first on last night, is you made in the last 2 minutes of that game you only made 1 field goal.
Yep, and that was
Zach Davis's bank 3.
Yes, we're again. It looked like he's redeeming himself here.
Didn't it feel like the basketball gods were shining on them when they banked the 3 at the end of the shot clock?
And because it was consecutive. It was 3 threes in a row. So Yukasuk hit his, Clayton Jr. hit his, and then Zach Davis immediately responds like, okay, I know things kind of going wrong here, but I think we're going to be all right. Yeah. And then we know what happened.
And that was the last field goal South Carolina made. And they only went 1 for 3 down that stretch. And, free throw wise, again, Zach Davis went 1 or 2 from the line. So did Colin Murray Boyles.
On a night where you didn't go to the line a whole lot. So those became more glaring.
They became gigantic. In those last couple minutes.
Which actually, shout out to the Pat Adams crew, because they're usually pretty whistle heavy.
Yeah, not as much
last night.
And you had 2 teams who typically don't send the opposition to the line a lot consistently. But the other part of it also, and they throw in the turnovers. Zach Davis had 2 turnovers in the last couple minutes. So in the last 2 minutes of the game, you hit a field goal. It was a 3 at the end of the shot clock when you had a terrible possession with the ball and you just lucked out. You missed 2 of your 4 free throws, and you had 2 huge turnovers. this team does not have the ability to close games.
No.
They have one guy you could say should be a closer, and that's Colin Murray-Boyles. Last night, Colin Murray-Boyles did not touch the ball in the last couple minutes to take a shot. Even if he touched the ball, he didn't affect the game in the last couple of minutes. So there's a couple things going on there. A, as players, you got to recognize who your dude is. And your dude is Colin Murray-Boyles. You've also, as Colin Murray-Boyles, you got to understand when you get the ball late in the game, you have to affect the game.
Yeah.
Whether it's and Colin Murray-Boyles last night was phenomenal passing the rock. He was good last night.
Dishing out assists left and right, which you like to see that. That's great.
Yeah, he's giving dimes to everybody.
And their assists to buckets made 18 to 28. Like that's great numbers.
That's unreal. The percentage of assists to baskets. And Colin Murray-Boyles only had 2 turnovers. I say only because, when you turn the ball over like South Carolina, if you only got 2. So his assist-to-turnover ratio was 4-1 last night.
Yep.
But in the last couple minutes of the game, when you get the ball, when you're the dude, and you get the ball late in the game, you've got to affect the contest. Whether it's you make a bucket, you get to the line, or you get it to a teammate who's open for a shot. That's what you have to do at the end of the game if you're the dude. But you got to be more aggressive. Colin Murray-Boyles at times is aggressive and at times is not. He's not like early in the game. What did he take? 6 shots? Early in the game?
He came out with his hair on fire. He scored 5 points in the first 3 seconds of the game. It felt like you're like, okay, great. This is what you want to see. But with him, it ebbs and flows. It comes and goes and comes and goes, and it's not consistent through the entire game. And I get it. He's the best player. They're going to do their best to take him away, which Florida did that and tried to last night. But again, if you're a good enough player, sometimes you got to just fight through that and take over.
And here's number 3. Lamont Paris has to, at that whether it's the 4-minute TV timeout, the under 4, whether it's you call a timeout and you're setting up something late in the game, or the other team calls a timeout and you're in your huddle, you have to go, fellas, I want to reintroduce you to somebody. This is Colin Murray-Boyles. We need to run the offense through him. Or you run a play. You set up a play where the ball goes to Colin Murray-Boyles. Really, the best spots for him is by the elbow, the free throw line, where he's got space to do the short drive. Because he is close to unstoppable at times when he puts the ball on the deck with that 2-3 dribble and go to the rack.
Yep.
But if you're Lamont, you can also control that as a coach. And so all 3 of those things failed them last night. And you got to get the ball to Colin Murray-Boyles. Now, there was a game, it was the Auburn game. Colin Murray-Boyles did have the ball late. He had a turnover. He missed a layup. I think he missed one. I think he did get to the line. But he had a chance to affect the game, and, it was But every one of these games, South Carolina, the 3 that they could have won, they did not handle crunch time well.
And think about this. You're 0-6 right now. You could be 3-3 in the conference. You could be 13-6 on the year. And we'd be talking about, hey, you're on pace to still make the tournament right now.
Yep.
But instead you're 0-6, and it's like, okay, 12 more games. What are you playing for?
Yeah. I mean, look, we'll get more into this on the other side. But part of it is because of your injuries and how your roster is constructed, you're asking certain guys to do what certain guys really shouldn't be trying. Again, South Carolina had a chance to bag a top 5 team and failed to do it when they really should have. We'll get back into it. It's a halftime show. David Dare is over there punching the buttons. Tyler Head's here. Terry Ford, if you're on the phone, we'll get to you on the Love Chevy phone line as well, 803-404-6100. It's a halftime show till 3 on the game.
One more for Zach. To try and give the Gamecocks the 1-point lead. He does. 69-68. Here come the Gators. 15 seconds left. Who wins it? Clayton on the switch. Pringle takes it. Gives off to Richard. Richard drives to the basket. Gets to the rim. Puts it up and in. 5 seconds left. Gives to Jacoby Wright on the inbounds. Jacoby pulls the string from 30 out the iron. No good. And the Gators steal one from South Carolina.
That's a tough one last night. Halftime show, David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford going till 3 on the game. We're going to get you in the Love Chevy phone line. Hang in there, 803-404-6100. All right, look, as we talk about this just frustrating loss last night to Florida, and we talk about the lack of being able to close out these games against Auburn, Florida, and Vanderbilt, one of the things that's going on here is because of injuries and, again, your roster reconstruction or your roster construction is you have some guys you're asking to do things that you really shouldn't be asking them to do at this point in their basketball life.
Sure.
You know, Colin Murray-Boyles obviously is your best player, your leading scorer. You know, he's going to be most likely a first-round pick in the NBA draft. I don't think a lottery pick. I think he'll get picked, you know, somewhere between 20 and 30 probably. But he's going to be a first-round pick most likely in the NBA draft.
Yep.
But what you're doing, though, with the rest of your roster, look, God loves Zach Davis. He's aggressive. He's all gas, no brakes, right?
Yep.
But if you watch him, this should not be the guy on your team taking 18 shots.
Most
Not to
likely
be
not.
mean, because he's not. That's not his skill set.
No, his strength is defense.
He's a good defender. He's a great cutter and slasher to the basket. You saw it last night. He had a couple of cuts to the basket. Got a dunk. Got a layup. He's a guy that get an offensive rebound, get you a dirty hoop on a putback. He makes enough threes to take too many threes. He'll make one and say, "Good, I can shoot 9 more." He's a guy on a good team as your 4th or 5th option. He's a defender, and if he's scraping around 8 points a game for you in some way, shape, or form, that's fine.
Yep.
When Zach Davis is taking 18 shots for you, that is not a recipe.
No.
Because he's not that player. But on this team right now, to be fair to Zach Davis, besides Colin Murray-Boyles, who's really the guy right now to step up? No one's consistently been the number 2. So when Zach Davis goes out there and balls the way he did in the second half, and he's making shots, and he's being aggressive, and he's making plays, you know that he's walking on that tightrope of disaster at some point.
Yeah, and again, he went from the hero to zero pretty quickly last night. And again, you're getting production out of, you know, guys like Ugasuk at times. You know, Arden Conyers is doing well off the bench. But like you said, you don't have that consistent number 2 behind Colin Murray-Boyles.
No, I mean, Zach Davis, you shouldn't be asking Zach Davis to do this much. You shouldn't be asking Jacoby Wright to be your point guard and to play 38 minutes. Arden Conyers, you like what you're seeing so far, but he's a youngin', and he's not ready for a gigantic role.
You can't put too much on his plate too fast.
And Nick Pringle, there are moments Nick Pringle gives you something, but there's moments Nick Pringle disappears.
We had some people weigh in earlier. It's like, well, you need to bench Davis, bench Jacoby Wright. Who are you going to put in?
Yeah, who's
the
playing?
next option? You're already down 2 starters. Cam Scott was sick last night, so you played with a limited bench to begin with. What other option do you have?
Right, and Morris Ugasuk, I mean, again, in the right role, he can be productive for you. But right now you're asking him to probably do more than he's capable of at this moment. Not to say none of these guys can grow into better roles down the road in their careers, but right now you're asking guys to do things you really shouldn't be asking them to do. Like Jacoby Wright got the ball at the end of the game. He's trucking down. He's got plenty of time, 5 seconds roughly. And he pulls up with about 2 seconds left and hoists, a 30-footer. That was not the right play. The right play was to attack the basket. You're down by 1. If you're aggressive and you go to the rack, most likely you're going to get fouled.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be able to maybe you can stop, pop a little teardrop. Maybe you actually get to the rim for a layup, or maybe because the defense is collapsing on you, if you miss the shot, it's an easy putback for somebody with like maybe a half second left on the clock. Or if they're all coming at you, you can dish something real quick to somebody right at the end of the game on a buzzer. There's so many things. If you attack the basket right there, pulling up from 27 or 28 feet was not the play, but to be fair, Jacoby Wright shouldn't be the guy you're asking to make that decision at that point in the game.
Right.
But right now, the way you're constructed, this is where you're at. And yeah, and it also circles back to getting your best player the ball as much as possible to run the offense through them during crunch time, who is Colin Murray Boyles. So there's just all of this going right now with this team, unfortunately.
Yep.
It sucks. You're 0-6, and you are what your record is, and you've earned it, to be fair. But they have played well enough against two top 5 teams and in a road game against a team that's got a winning record to where you could be at least 2-4 or 3-6.
Yeah, no,
3-3.
This team is not awful, and it's not a lost cause because you've seen the blueprint on how you can beat some of these top-ranked teams in your bar, no less. And I fully expect them to make it a competitive game on Saturday. But until you show me you can close the deal and win, I'm not going to believe you can get it done.
Right. All right. 803-404-6100. Real quick, let's get Willie, who's been holding on. Willie, we appreciate you hanging on. You're on the halftime show in the game. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine, sir. The only thing I wanted to say is kind of piggyback on what you were saying about, to me, they just don't have the point guard. I mean, that seemed like it was the downfall of that particular game. No ball handling at the end of the game.
Oh, Willie, you nailed it. You really did. We appreciate it, my man. Thank you, because you're exactly right.
And look, being down a solid point guard is like being down a quarterback. And again, you can have plenty of weapons on the outside, but if you don't have a quarterback that can get the ball to your weapons and allow them to be successful, your offense isn't going to move very well. Same thing with the point guard. If you don't have a guy that can command and control the offense, and look, we've talked about it. Jamari Thomas is not Talon Cooper, but compared to what we have now, he's clearly the best version of a point guard that you have on this team. They're talking about him potentially coming back next week, and it will be a welcome return when he does come back.
Oh, he's John Stockton compared to what you have in the backcourt right now when it comes to point guard. And the other thing, when you are, again, when a team starts pressing you, and Florida, and Lamont Paris said it last night, they typically don't press Florida. They play fast, but they don't press.
They were desperate.
But they were desperate because two things are going on. A, they were getting beat. B, this game was being played at South Carolina's tempo. So if you press, you can do two things. A, you know by watching your film, South Carolina turns the ball over.
Yep.
Press them, put heat on their ball handlers and their passers, and maybe you can get some turnovers that turns into transition baskets, which Florida's really good at. And B, you speed this game up.
Good teams, when they're not having their best night, take the most advantage of other teams' mistakes, which, again, you've seen with Auburn and now Florida last night. Didn't play their best games. Again, South Carolina drugged them in the mud, made it a rock fight like we know South Carolina wants to do. They held Florida to 15 points lower than their season average. They've been putting 80 and 90 points on teams, and Carolina only held them to 70 points, held Auburn to 6-6 a couple weeks ago. You made them play your game, but your fundamentals failed you in the end.
Yeah, you couldn't close the deal. And when you have people who aren't used to handling the ball in those situations when you're getting pressed like that, guys panic. They start playing too fast. They speed up. They make quick bad decisions. And you saw it. I mean, again, God loves Zach Davis. He should never be allowed to dribble again in his life. I mean, he's got 15 turnovers in the last 3 games. It's just some guys you can't. Some guys shouldn't be in that position.
And we knew that Florida was so good at scoring in transition. If you had any kind of turnover trouble, they're going to make pay for it. They got 22 points off of turnovers last night. And again, in a 1-point game, any of those could have been the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's the other part of the problem is you don't have anybody in the backcourt that could have settled all that down. And when you have a point guard that is a point guard that used to handling the ball in these situations, you can settle it down. And if you do have a point guard, Florida might not press you.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden you're making them pay for the press.
They don't have respect for your ball handling skills, rightfully so. You've struggled with it, and they put you in a situation that made you nervous, and guess what? You gave the ball over time and time again. And
that's the issue. So all of this just kind of combined to ending up seeing what we saw last night. Okay. All right. Just in case you woke up and you're like, what's going on in the world of sports, we'll get that to you. If you're on the phone, we'll talk with you on the Love Chevy phone line as well. 803-404-6100 later today. Schroeder's Towing Roadshow out at Craft and Draft. As we talk about our beer card, our craft beer card, Jay and Elijah will be out at Craft and Draft in Irmo from 3 to 6 on St. Andrews Road. That is today, sponsored by our buddies at Schroeder's Towing. Come back, get you caught up on the headlines in the world of sports next on the Halftime Show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. I get you caught up in the world of sports. In case you just woke up, we have talked a lot about what happened to the Gamecock men last night, losing by 1 to the Florida Gators at CLA. Tough one, blowing a double-digit lead in the second half.
I was debating earlier with Dave, like, okay, you've lost 6 games in conference play. That's probably the toughest one to swallow, right? Because it's one thing to get beat by 35 by Mississippi State. By the way, coming to town this weekend. Good luck with that. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to, again, have a top 5 team that you outplay for a lot of the game, and then you just let it slip through your fingers.
Yeah, and just like Auburn, I mean, it's just tough to take. You make some free throws against Auburn, there's a good chance you win that one last night.
Make some free throws last night.
I mean, make free throws last night. Zach Davis missed 1. Colin Murray-Boyles went 1 for 2, I do believe, as well. It just, you got to make your free throws. You can't turn the ball over. And again, look, every one of these 3 losses follow the theme of can't close the game, turn the ball over, miss free throws, give up a key offensive rebound, whatever it is. You just can't close the door.
Yeah.
You're not closing out games.
If they suddenly cut the game to 30 minutes, this team would be great.
Or like what, 55?
Yeah.
Maybe all right.
30,
or 35.
39, 35, 39, 50, something along those lines.
It's just crazy. Let's grab a call real quick. 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone line. Taylor's been holding on. Taylor, we appreciate you holding on. You're on the halftime show on the game. How you doing?
Good, fellas. Enjoying my day off. I'm a teacher, so it's kind of been crazy around the Midlands. But, I was just thinking, I went to that Auburn game, and I don't know, it just feels like this team is kind of thrown in the towel. I feel like they don't believe a lot that they can win. And I'm kind of, looking down the road here, we get Eli Ellis in next year. He's quite the stud. And I kind of feel like next year's the make or break year for Paris. If he can't get things done with Eli Ellis, I think fans will be calling for his job. What do you guys think? Interesting.
Thanks, Taylor. We appreciate it. Now, remember, Lamont just signed a new deal.
Yes.
Let's keep that in mind. Now, you have a new AD.
You do.
Who did not hire Lamont Paris or give Lamont Paris a contract extension. But I get where Taylor's going because, all right, let's say this year you finish with a losing record.
Yeah, which seems to be trending that way.
Feels like it's going that
you're
way.
10-9 right now.
Yeah, so you have let's say you finish with a losing record. That's out of 3 seasons, 2 losing records, and 1 trip to the NCAA tournament. Now, let's go down the road Taylor's saying. So the road of a new AD who didn't hire you and didn't give you the extension, and now you've had 2 losing seasons out of 3. Now, if you make it 3 losing seasons out of 4, where does that sit you with a new AD?
That's tough. Obviously, South Carolina is not a program that has had the same type of historical success in basketball as the Dukes and Kansases in the world. So I don't think you're as trigger happy there. It's definitely a conversation, but I wouldn't say with 100% certainty that, okay, if you follow up, a tournament trip with 2 back-to-back losing seasons, he's definitely gone. And again, we're getting way far ahead of ourselves here, but
we're just filling air.
It's filling air, right? I think that's a tough thing to say as of right now. I want to hit on something he did mention a moment ago, that he was at the Auburn game, and again, fundamentals killed you in that game. I don't think the team has given up because you don't outplay the number 5 team in the country for the majority of that game by just going through the motions. However, did those last 9 minutes yesterday kill your spirit?
Well, that's the. And it's the same thing, just worded different, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not giving up, you're trying. And we've all, I guess, if we've played enough sports and enough teams, you'll play for that team that if it can go wrong, it does go wrong, right? The sports gods just laugh at you for a year, right?
Yes, I was on a few of those.
And you're playing well enough to lose all the time. You can't close the deal. You can't finish the game. You're always doing something stupid that will eventually, you got it this time?
Yep. There we go. Nope.
That will eventually ruin it for you, right? That's we've all been there. And it's human nature in life. I mean, let's just forget sports. In life, if you go through a bad patch in life where if it can go wrong, it does go wrong.
Like Dave's 41 years of bad luck with
Dave's
women.
41 years of women. Dave, I guarantee you now, when he let's say he goes on a date at some point in the next year or 2, Dave has a date. And it goes really well, right? Dave is going to get in the car, and after he goes, that went really well. He's going to get to his house. You know what he's going to think? how am I
How's it
going to
gonna go
screw this
wrong?
up? Because that's human nature. Are we wrong, Dave?
I'll be like George Constanza, where the woman invites him up for coffee after a date. He goes, I don't really drink coffee. Keeps me up.
Dave, between Sydney Sweeney, Selena Gomez, and Zendaya all getting engaged, you're running out of prospects here.
It's not really working for you.
That's true. And both Larkin Poe girls are married, too.
And, of course, your girl,
The list is getting smaller.
your girl Seinfeld, too. Remember her?
Steinfeld,
rather.
Haley
He
Steinfeld.
talked about Seinfeld and got me on the Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Steinfeld, Haley Steinfeld. That's his girl, too.
You could take Josh Allen.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. While he's all playing football, you could be there for her. But that's the point. It's like you just start to, self-fulfilled prophecy stuff.
Yeah. You start negative because of the history. Say, okay, well, how's this going to go wrong for me this time?
How's it going to screw up now? And you don't want these guys to get to that point where, here we go again. Because once you get to here we go again, you're screwed.
And you're dealing with a age group that is so impressionable. 18 to 22-year-olds, especially in today's day and age where, again, you start having things go wrong, you can immediately lose them pretty quickly.
Sure, and plus they go on social media and they get to see how people think they suck.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't help either.
And they can say, we don't pay attention to that noise. They pay attention to the noise.
Of course they do.
It's impossible to not pay attention to it.
Right. So, and I'll go back to the Lamont Paris thing. I think Lamont Paris he's got 2 more seasons before we even talk about hot seats.
Yeah.
I think Lamont, at the end of 5 years, if they have one winning season in 5 years, then there's probably going to be a conversation.
Sure.
But after this year, no. And after year 4, you see where you're at after like year 4 or 5.
Yeah.
This is not close to being a thing yet at all. All right. Just in case you woke up, a couple things going on. Sean McVay wants to know what Matthew Stafford's going to do. Because, Matthew Stafford played with broken ribs, by the way, in the loss to Philly. Played well in the snow in the loss to Philly. And, has, for the most part, as an LA Ram quarterback, has given the Rams all that they wanted when they traded for him.
Sure.
But Stafford's, he's getting near 40 now.
He's getting up there, 36, 37, something like that.
Yeah, he's rolling toward 40. And he's been talking about maybe retirement because he wants to do more of those mattress commercials.
Right.
And so Sean McVay's like, look, man, you do you. Just let me know because we need to find out what's up. Because I got to make plans. If you don't want to be the quarterback, if you want to retire, fine. I love you, give you a hug. But I've got to figure out what I'm going to do at the quarterback position. I think Stafford comes back for another year. That's just me.
Yeah, and look, I know this LA Rams team had up and downs this year, but once he finally got Cooper Kupp back, Nakua back, and got all the healthy guys around him, you saw a significant uptick in his offensive performance. And again, he's getting up there in age, so maybe he can't do all the same wonderful things that he did during some of those prime years in Detroit, which seemed kind of wasted at this point in time, but still a very capable quarterback that if he decides to play for a couple more years, can, I think, still continue to play at a high level.
Real quick, look, I've always been a fan of playoff Jimmy Butler. I love playoff Jimmy because he just does ridiculous things in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler's been a high-level player for a while, but he takes up another notch in the postseason. For some reason, playoff Jimmy's real.
Tightens the headband down a little bit.
Exactly, and I love playoff Jimmy. But Jimmy Butler also can be moody. He can be difficult when he feels like being difficult. And right now, moody Jimmy has showed up. And this is purely about money. Jimmy Butler is going to be suspended by the Heat for 2 games because, he decided to miss the flight to Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. He is being disruptive as hell because he wants to be traded.
Sure.
And he's going to be the biggest pain in the Heat's backside until they deal him to a team that, wants to show Jimmy the love that Jimmy wants. And the love is about his wallet. Make no mistake. Butler's got 1 year. This is what's sideways about the NBA. All right, Jimmy Butler right now, is eligible for a 2-year, $113 million extension that the Heat have not offered. Right now, he's only has a player option for only $52 million.
Only? What a deal.
So Jimmy wants to get paid, and Jimmy's mad because he's not getting paid, so this is why it's all happening.
Yep.
All right, if you're on the phone, we'll get to you. 803-404-6100. Also, our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour is coming up as well here on the Halftime Show with David Aaron, Tyler Head, and Terry Ford till 3 on the game.
Offensive end, Murray Boyles, who else orchestrating the offense from the low post, kicks out to Zach Davis, who tries a three and gets it.
Well, Zach hit one.
Zach Davis tries another three, and he's got another three. This one from the corner by the Gamecock bench.
2 in a row for Zach.
Oh, there's Zach Davis. His 3 threes last night in the 70-69 loss to Florida. The good news, Tyler, Zach Davis hit 3 threes.
Yes, he did.
The bad news, it took him 10 3-point attempts to make
He was
3 threes.
He was feeling himself.
And Zach took 18 shots last night. Now, again, he made 9 of 18,
Got
to his
22
credit.
points.
Had 22.
Made some big shots,
Made some
including
big shots.
including right there at the end. Well, we thought, again, because Ugasuk made one, Clayton Jr. made one for Florida, and then Zach Davis immediately answers with 3. It's like, okay, good. Maybe you're getting some momentum back on your side, and that was the last field goal that Carolina made.
I mean, when you bank a 3 at the end of the shot clock, you feel like, oh,
you're the man.
we're going to win.
You're the man.
When you make shots like that, it's like, oh, yeah.
You're feeling yourself.
There's no doubt we're going to pull a W. All right, Firehouse sub text line 803-404-6100. Oh, let me give him a stat real quick.
Okay.
Last night, to the point of transition basketball, Florida had 22 fast break points last night, which was 22 more than South Carolina had.
Yep. Again, we knew this team was killer in transition. And the second you turn the ball over, boom, they're at the basket every time.
And they were the minute they have a chance to go to the rack in transition, to speed the game up and to get easy points,
they did it.
They're going for it
flawlessly. And again, the more it happened, the more Carolina got clunky. I keep going back to that word, and the more it just kept piling up and piling up. And again, if you're looking for one reason why Carolina lost the game, there it is.
Turnovers in the worst possible time. 9 turnovers in the last 9 minutes. What you got there on the text line?
Same with basketball here. Scott says bad teams find a way to lose.
Scott's not wrong.
That's what they're in the middle of right now.
That's right. You're bad. Look, you're 0-6. You're classified by your 1-loss record as a bad team.
By the way, you're the only team without a win in the SEC because Arkansas got past Georgia last night.
Georgia was up by 20-some at the half. They were killing Arkansas.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, on the SEC network, they were like, is Arkansas going to wave the white flag in the second half? I guess not.
Nope. So
all right.
You're even below them now.
All right, 803-404-6100. Dave is on the phone. Right? You want to grab a call for us there, Dave, real quick on the Love Chevy phone line? Let's get to Keith in Camden. Keith, we appreciate you hanging on. You're on the halftime show on the game. How you doing, man?
Doing great. I hope y'all are too. I don't know that I totally agree with the gentleman saying they quit. I mean, I watched the Auburn game and the Florida game. I don't think that's the issue. Now, you can't deny when you turn the ball over 20 times a game, it's going to create problems. And I think there's just mental lapse. Like if y'all recall where 3 in a row they scored 6 points off of just not handling the ball. But we're still missing a couple of pieces in fairness to this roster. So, yeah, it is what it is, but I don't think they've quit. But, you know, it's just like free throw shooting. You miss 10 in a row, it's going to play with you. So, yeah, I'm sure they're dealing with that. But, you know, the thing I don't understand, and you can't go back, Lamont, the first year we struggled. The second year we have a great year, and Ray Tanner does what he always does. You know, you put yourself in a situation where you extend the contract based on 2 years, and, you know, I question that, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's too early to draw a true idea of what the potential is, but I mean, I think they have proven the last few games that they're in the game. They're playing, but my gosh, they just shoot themselves in the foot so much. But
no, you're not.
Enjoy the show, guys.
Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling. Appreciate the good words. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've quit either. We both basically have said what Taylor said. You don't have a chance to beat 2 top 5 teams at the end of games if you've quit. It's just they don't know how to close, and part of it is because, like Taylor said, and we've talked about, you're missing 2 starters. Your roster construction, you were hoping for a couple things. You were hoping Jamari Thomas would be able to adjust his game to the SEC. He's had some good moments, some not so good moments. You were hoping Nick Pringle could take the next step as an offensive producer, right?
Yep.
At Alabama, he's setting screens. He's a rim runner. He's a put back guy. You're hoping his game can expound. And you're hoping Colin Murray-Boyles can take the next step as a number one option.
Sure.
Now, Colin Murray-Boyles has done that for the most part.
Yep.
He's had a couple of bad games. For the most part, he's been your number one guy, and he's produced for you. Pringle has not been consistent. Thomas wasn't consistent before he got hurt. That's where your problem has been, that's kind of where you were at. And when those things didn't come together,
Right.
that and the injuries have left you in the spot you're in now, unfortunately.
Yep. 12 more games to go.
Uh-huh. All right. Hey, we appreciate the calls on the Love Chevy phone line and on the Firehouse Sub text line. We thank you for the texting as well. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We got ourselves a headline. We'll go to Chapel Hill. Our reporter Tyler Head on the scene with some Bill Belichick news. That's coming up here on the halftime show on the game. We talk a ton about the Nest because if you're looking to, redo the appliances in your kitchen, maybe you like to put a new tub in the bathroom, maybe you want some new plumbing. How about lighting? Change the lighting in your house. Maybe you want to do something about the fixtures, like the look of the faucets and things of that nature. No, there's no other place to go but the Nest. And if you want to shop around, you have to make the Nest the part of your shopping around experience. Look, 803-978-2025 is the phone number. The best way to do this is to call. Say, look, hi, I am interested in some new plumbing. Okay, now we'll put you in touch with our plumbing expert. Hold on, boom, you go to the plumbing expert. You tell the plumbing expert what you want to look for, what your ideas are, ask them what they think, and you tell them your budget. The Nest will put it together for you, set you up, show you what you need, and make everything happen for you. 803-978-2025. The Nest on Gadsden and the Vista. Make the call. Halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford. 1 o'clock hour is football and more football and throw in some football. And if we get to it, we'll get to some football. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Now let's go to our correspondent on the ground in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Tyler Head. Tyler, what do you got there? Anything good?
Well, one, it's cold and there's a lot of blue everywhere. But I can confirm, multiple sources confirming that today, Bill Belichick has signed a 5-year deal with the University of North Carolina. It's going to pay him $10 million annually. First 3 years are guaranteed by the university. Bill would owe UNC $10 million if he leaves before June 1st of 2025. After that date, his buyout drops down to $1 million.
Basically, that feels like it's saying, you for sure got me for a year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nobody's hiring an NFL head coach on June 1st.
No, that's why when these people were talking about this contract, and the only thing was they were talking about this part of the contract, the buyout part.
Yep.
I was like, people who were saying, he could leave after June 1st for an NFL job. Well, you don't understand how the NFL works.
No, the season's basically there. In June. Your free agent signings, your draft, all that's already in the books.
Yeah.
You're not picking up a head coach on June 1st.
I mean, right now you have a couple teams left looking for head coaches.
Yes.
Vegas and Jacksonville.
Yes.
I think that's it. Off the top of my head. Is there one more?
I think that's it.
That's it.
No, the New Orleans hasn't
New Orleans.
got a coach.
So you got 3. Mike McCarthy will probably land
technically
in New
Dallas
Orleans.
too.
I feel that's going to be Kellen Moore.
I mean, it's going to be.
So
Got to wait for the
openings.
Eagles to be done.
Yeah, you have 4 openings right now. And the longer the Dallas job is open, the more it tells you it's Kellen Moore, by the way.
Sure.
So you have 4 openings that are going to be finished up by the end of the football season. So in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So once you roll into February, the NFL is locked up when it comes to coaches.
It's way too late.
But with Bill's buyout dropping all the way from $10 million to $1 million after June 1st of this year, it tells you then the following coaching cycle, if Bill this 1 year of college isn't what Bill bargained for, he can start looking at the NFL. And Bill's got $1 million in his glove compartment.
Oh, sure. And look, if things don't turn around, and let's say New York with the Giants, then Dable could be out at the end of next year. I'm surprised they gave him another year, to be honest with you, but that's a job that could realistically be coming open next offseason. And if Bill thinks that's where he wants to go, then he may go there.
You know, as defensive coordinator of the Giants through their Super Bowl years? Bill Belichick.
That's right.
So Bill's very familiar with the Mara family, with the Giants. He was Bill Parcells' guy.
He could go back to Cleveland at the Fire Stefanski.
They would love him in Cleveland. I was working in Youngstown the last 2 years of Belichick, and before all heck broke loose and he went to Baltimore and everything. Man, those people hated Bill.
Really?
Well, he wasn't Bill Belichick, New England Patriots yet.
He was a curmudgeon that hadn't won anything.
He was a curmudgeon, hadn't won anything. The dude wore the same hoodie every day. He hadn't showered in months. He ran off Bernie Kosar for Vinny Testaverde. They made the playoffs 1 year, got beat by the Steelers, and the next year, again, everything went sideways.
He had some schlub as a DC named Nick Saban.
Oh, I mean, that staff. Our boy at Iowa
Ferentz,
was on that
Ferentz
staff.
was on that. I think it was a tight ends, O-line coach, something like that.
That staff was ridiculous. The guy at Fresno State, was it Pat Smith? Was it Pat Smith in Fresno State forever?
I think so.
He was on that staff. You know who was in that front office? Ozzie Newsome.
Is that not the most Browns thing ever? To have some of the most successful people in football history on a staff that couldn't win anything?
Yeah, and they all went their separate ways and won a ton.
Yep.
And as soon as Cleveland
it was the city of Cleveland holding them back.
Yes, because they got to Baltimore and within 4 years won the Super Bowl. Anyway, so the hoodie has signed his deal, and it basically is saying this without saying it. I'm going to give this college thing a try for a year and see if I like it.
So with that salary, again, $10 million, he is now equal to both Kalen DeBoer and Mike Norvell. Only Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, and Ryan Day make more. So he is tied for 6th when it comes to annual salaries in college football. And I posed this question when this initial contract was proposed a while back before he ever signed it. Does he deserve to make that right off the jump? Like, I get he's legitimately one of the, if not the greatest NFL coaches of all time. This is a different world. Does he command being the 6th highest paid coach right off the jump?
Okay, does he deserve it? No. But do you want him?
Of course.
Then you got to pay.
Yep.
and especially if you're North Carolina. Not to be mean, North Carolina's not, well, first of all, none of the Blue Bloods would hire Belichick to be the head coach because, again, it's such a different world.
North Carolina is in let's throw the kitchen sink at it at this point with their football program.
Yeah, I mean, they should be better than they are. They've been kind of a sleeping giant, stumbling and bumbling for a while because they care about hoops. They don't care about football. So if you want to hire this guy, you have to pay this guy a lot of money.
Yep.
And he's not showing up for less than $10 million. He's just not. So you got to do it. Of course, he doesn't deserve it. He has many college football career victories as a head coach as you and I and Dave.
You know, he legitimately has never been on the sideline as a coach for a college game.
Oh, I mean,
all of his assisting is in the NFL.
He hung out while his dad was a head coach at Navy.
Yeah, but that he wasn't in an official role there.
No, he just hung out.
Yeah,
he was a kid. He just wanted to go. He was a ball boy or whatever. So no, he doesn't deserve it. But this is the price you pay to get Bill Belichick, and that's the way this thing rolls. So. Belichick officially signing his contract at North Carolina. All right, also in football sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Interesting going on in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes spoke out yesterday. Basically, the headline should read this. Patrick Mahomes says Patrick Mahomes does not get calls.
What do you think he was going to say?
Right. What's Patrick Mahomes going to say? I absolutely get calls. Dude, I flip and flop like nobody's business. I steal calls all the time from these goofy officials. He's never going to say that.
No.
So, Dave, let's go to this cut. Patrick Mahomes, cut 16, talking about himself and the Chiefs, this narrative that they get favorable calls by the officials.
I just try to play football at the end of the day. The referees are doing their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they possibly can. And all you can do is go out there and play the game that you love as hard as you can and live with the results. And so for me, it's to go out there, play hard, try to do whatever I can to win the football game, and then live with the results based off my effort and the way that we played the game. And so I think that's what we preach here in Kansas City. I haven't felt any different. You get new referees every year. You get new circumstances, and you never can really tell because every play is different. That's what makes the NFL so special. And so I feel like I've just continued to play the game, and I just try to win.
A word salad of nothing because, well, again, like, what do you say? Of course you're going to say this. I don't think we get favorable calls. Okay, well, that's it. I mean, that's the only answer you have. So you have to, make up this big buffet of word nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know who posed the question, but I don't know what they expected him to say out of that. And look, here's the thing. Kansas City does not go into every game like, well, guess what? We're going to get 4 or 5 calls that go our way that are going to help us. Like, no, they go in planning to play football the way that everybody that plays playing football. And are there some calls that seem to benefit them? There are. Again, it's a debate on what that means and what exactly is going on here. But, again, Patrick Mahomes is not going to say, yeah, we get tons of favorable calls and we game plan around that.
Yeah, okay, ready? Well, the NFL every Monday sends us a list of calls they're going to give us.
Yeah, Roger Goodell emails me personally and says, all right, in the second quarter, you're going to fake slide or slide really late, and we're going to let 2 defenders hit themselves above you, and we're going to get a flag for that. Will Anderson's going to hit you up high, going to get a flag for that. All these kind of things. They just give you the script. The NFL script.
Vince McMahon writes the script.
Remember when that was a thing a couple years ago?
Right.
Like, the script is given to them on August 1st. So, all right, here's your path to winning the Super Bowl this year.
All you do is fill in the blank. Kansas City Chiefs, before that, New England Patriots. Before that, Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, whoever, whatever team has got a dynasty built.
I will say this. If the NFL was truly rigged, the Cowboys would not be going 30 years without a Super Bowl.
I always say that. If the NFL truly was written by Vince McMahon, the Cowboys would win a Super Bowl every couple of years, or they'd be in one all the time.
They'd at least be in a conference. I am 28 years old. The Cowboys have never been to a conference championship in my lifetime.
Think about that.
If the NFL was rigged, that would not be possible.
Yes. It's insane, but that's the way people think. That, again, when you put on your tinfoil helmet and you sit in your parents' basement, that's what you think.
And I brought this up to Jack earlier. It's interesting because the Chiefs are starting to get the Patriots level of hate because they're just so successful. They got a superstar quarterback, and people are starting to turn on them. You know, when they won that first Super Bowl in the 2019 season, it's like, man, good for Andy Reid. It's been all these years. It's come so close. Man, this Mahomes guy is so fun to watch. This is such a fun team.
Like such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy. You know, we didn't know how crazy his family was outside of that, but good for them. You know, they go the next year, they lose the Super Bowl to Tampa Bay. They come back the next year and win. Oh, hey, that's great. And then they win another Super Bowl, and it's like, okay, this is starting to get on my nerves a little bit. I want to see a little more variety here. So the perception goes from, wow, that's a great team with a great coach, a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end, a Hall of Fame defensive end, and all these kind of things. So, well, clearly the league is making sure they win. Like, it's funny how that changes in just a short window, right?
Yeah, do you remember when the Chiefs went into Kansas City and won the AFC Championship game?
Patriots, you mean?
Patriots. I said Chiefs. Yeah, the Chiefs went to Kansas City. The Patriots went to Kansas City and won that game that AFC Championship game in overtime.
When D Ford put his finger on Tom Brady's helmet.
It just, yeah, and everybody said, well, New England gets calls.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now we've just flipped it around. No, Kansas City gets calls.
Yep.
It's like when Golden State first won the NBA championship. Oh, that Steph Curry's so cute. Oh, he brings his daughter to the press conferences. Oh, Golden State's so cuddly. And then they got Kevin Durant and everybody hated him.
Yeah.
And that's just like Kansas City. People are, I hate Patrick Mahomes. Well, I hate his face. I just hate his face. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, they hate that. They hate Mahomes' wife. They hate Mahomes' brother. Even Andy Reid, who does nothing for anybody to hate him. There are even people who don't like Andy Reid right now for some reason. He wears those Hawaiian shirts. I hate it.
That mustache is stupid.
So annoying. He just grew that mustache because they're winning. No, he's had it his whole life. Yeah, if you see a fourth grade picture of Andy Reid,
I don't think Andy Reid has an upper lip, to be honest with you.
He had a mustache when he was in elementary school. So that's just the way this thing goes. In regards to if you're a dynasty type team, don't get me wrong. The Chiefs have gotten some favorable calls that have really helped them over the last couple of years. Absolutely. And you can turn this any way you want. You can look at the amount of penalties Kansas City gets in the playoffs compared to their opponents, which their opponents get more. Or you can look at the entire body of work through a season. Kansas City and their opponents about the same amount of penalties. Nick Wright, who worked in Kansas City in sports talk before he got his national gig with Fox, Nick Wright was on Fox talking about the NFL, the Chiefs, and this idea that the league rigs everything for Kansas City. It's cut 19, Dave.
Nobody cares because nobody actually cares about bad officiating. They only care about trying to find a reason that the league, by the way, and I'm sorry I'm late, but you put me on this. This idea that it's rigged. Guys, you do understand the league is the 32 owners. So the 31 other owners are like, damn, I guess we're rigging it for Kansas City again. You don't think McNair in Houston is like, hey, guys, I don't want to rig it for the Chiefs. And they're like, shut up, doesn't matter. So ridiculous.
It's true.
Yeah, he brings up a good point.
He nails it. Now, again, I'm not a Nick Wright guy, but in this case, Nick Wright nailed it.
And I'm not of the belief. Look, I've said this before. I think officiating is just terrible across the board. You watch enough games, you see bad calls in every single game. And I don't think that Roger Goodell sends out a memo every single year saying, all right, got to make sure the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. But I do think when you have the best team with the best quarterback and perhaps the best coach in the NFL right now, you almost have this unintentional bias in your mind, like, oh, that was a high hit on Patrick Mahomes, flag, like without even having a second thought. You don't go into the game saying, all right, I'm going to make sure Mahomes gets favorable calls. It just happens because, again, that's the face of the league,
right?
And we're human. Yep. We make those kind of judgments in our head, and referees are no different,
right? I mean, we want officials to be objective and impartial and all those things, but they're human beings. And for an example, if, forget Mahomes for a minute, if Travis Kelce is going across the middle and he's got something going on with a linebacker or DB, and Kelce, which typically would make a catch on a ball, doesn't, there might be a flag being thrown because, man, that DB had to do something because Kelce catches that ball all the time.
Hit him right in the hands. How did he not catch it? Yeah,
had to do something to Kelce. I mean, those things happen. Officiating stinks.
It's awful.
You're having middle-aged men running around with men in the prime of their athletic career trying to make calls in a split second. It's set up to stink.
Yeah.
All right, football, the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Where do the transfer portal guys at South Carolina rank in the country? We'll get to that next here on The Game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour is sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. All right, our buds at Gamecock Central did us a huge favor, and we want to thank them on the air. And this was Kevin Miller put this together. How did the South Carolina portal transfer signees rank in their positions regarding the country and the transfer portal?
Sure.
For example, Aaron Nolan, the quarterback coming in from Ohio State, was ranked 46th overall in the portal in this previous wave. Quarterback ranking was number 9 overall, but the number 46 player. Look, Aaron Nolan is very highly thought of coming out of high school. And what a great quarterback name.
Oh, phenomenal quarterback name. And look, he's not going to be the highest because he's just not played college football. Mm-hmm. Again, we're going off of the success that he had in high school and all of his accolades coming out as a 4-star guy. But again, the potential ceiling for this guy is sky high. And
that's why, even though he didn't play last year, he's the number 46 overall ranked player in the portal. Brandon Cisse, number 66 overall out of the portal. He was the number 8 ranked corner in the portal. Cisse's highly thought of. His time at NC State, he was really good as a freshman, even better as a sophomore. And, Cisse can play in the slot.
Yep.
He's very versatile. This was a really good get by South Carolina.
Yeah, and again, you're losing, O'Donnell Fortune, and this seems like a guy that can slide in and fill that spot.
Yep. Rashul Faison, the running back from Utah State, the number 7th ranked running back in the portal and number 76 ranked transfer overall. 1,100 yards last year. He's not a burner. He's not going to hit 20 miles an hour on the old miles per hour gun across the street. But he breaks tackles. He picks up yards after contact. He's very efficient. He had a ton of 10-yard plus runs.
Yeah, no, he's a guy that, again, you're going to have to see what that transition is like from G5 football to the SEC, which, again, we've seen plenty of guys, make that jump, and obviously you need him to have a good offensive line in front of him, but he's got pretty good high upside potential and could end up being the number 1 guy in this room, or it just becomes a part of the back-by-committee type approach.
And Jaylen Brown, the edge from Missouri, didn't play much last year at Mizzou. High 4-star prospect coming out of high school. Did 1 year at Missouri. And now moved on to South Carolina. Again, 17th ranked edge player in the portal, 123rd overall. Again, he's ranked that high because of his ceiling and his projection. And he's a guy who's got a lot of potential. We'll see where it goes. But, he doesn't have a big resume at all, showing he's got 3 years of eligibility.
And look, that was a defense at Mizzou that had good pieces on it. So, it's understandable why he couldn't find his way into the field. And we'll see what he does, potentially filling or helping to fill that role that Kyle Kennard's leaving behind.
All right, last 2 guys, defensive tackle Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy was a former 5-star come out of high school when he went to A&M in 2022. Again, another guy. He was number 12th ranked from his position at D-line, interior defensive line out of the portal, 170th overall. And again, a guy getting this ranking at all is because of what he was coming out of high school.
Sure.
A lot of potential. But he tore his ACL. He's had some stuff. But everybody still thinks there's a high ceiling for Brownlow-Dindy. Last one to look at, offensive lineman Rodney Newsom, 14th ranked interior offensive lineman in the portal, ranked number 184 overall. He was all-conference USA at Western Kentucky last year. He's a guy that does have a resume and a guy has played well, obviously, over his career. This is a good get because of the experience and the past production you're getting.
Yeah, and again, you're replacing a lot on the interior of that offensive line. He seems to be somebody that should be able to slot into one of those spots as the offseason goes along.
So that's kind of where the highest ranked of all those guys that South Carolina has come in through the portal. Also other guys, you got corner Miles Norwood from Ball State, who South Carolina really likes. So you have Norwood, you have Cisse. You have 2 guys who have been there, done that. That's great for your depth at DB. You also brought in the other offensive lineman, Boaz Stanley. I just like his name. Boaz Stanley at Troy, Nick Sharp, Wake Forest. Stanley struggled playing tackle, but was much better at center. Sharp, he was good. He was under the radar good. He's not wow, but he was solid to good at Wake Forest last year. So those are some good moves in the portal, and that's just kind of talking about where all these folks have been slotted.
You didn't want to attempt our guy's name? Justin?
Okoronkwo.
I think it's Okoronkwo. The piece of paper with the phonetic is
Okoronkwo?
behind the computer over there, but I think we were close.
Justin O. He's another one again. He's even in any rankings because of his ceiling and upside, not because he had a wow year last season. But
right.
That's what we talk about. There's a combination here of guys who have resumes of experience and guys who just have a lot of potential. It'd be nice to, when you finish this thing up for good after the spring, it'd be nice to have maybe a veteran wide receiver with a resume, maybe a veteran edge guy with some kind of resume. I know that's easier said than done, but it'd be nice to and that would pretty much finish this thing up, Tyler, if you do it.
It would, and again, that's adding to what you already have. Again, there's nothing where you're hitting the panic button saying, if we don't get this in the spring, we're in a lot of trouble when the fall rolls around. Again, if you can find a true X guy to play on the outside that's a definitive number one, that's great. If not, you do have a complement of guys in that room that you hope can continue to develop and eventually pop. And again, you always want to be able to try and find edge guys and maybe find another Kyle Kennard type. But even if you don't, you feel like you do have capable bodies in the room. Of course, Dylan Stewart leading the way there. And again, it's just kind of up to what's available and what's out there.
Right. The other thing about so far in this offseason is seeing all the love South Carolina's getting in these way too early top 25 polls.
Do you feel like they're too high in some of these?
8 and 12. And
like with all they're replacing, especially on defense, I'm like, you appreciate the fact that you're being thought of that much. And I get every team is replacing a lot and a lot of turnover, but it's like, man, I got a lot of questions about this defense.
You're replacing all three levels. You're replacing edge pass rusher and interior defensive lineman. You're replacing all your linebackers.
And you're replacing NFL talent at all three levels, not just guys that ran out of eligibility.
Yeah, Eamon Warry's going to get drafted first or second round. Kennard's probably going to go in the second round. Sanders will go second, third, probably second round.
D-Knight sometime in the mid to late rounds.
Fourth round. Rocket Sanders might get picked in the final day or whatever. You got a lot of guys who are going to hear their names in the NFL draft. And, you're replacing dudes who really made a difference. And that's a huge thing. And I think they're being rated that high. I mean, really, let's face it. It's because people believe Lenore Sellers is going to be a huge game-changing difference maker next year.
In all the preseason quarterback polls, I saw J.D. Pickella on 3, in terms of returning quarterbacks, he had Lenore Sellers number one in the entire country. Like, you're going to hear that kind of hype around him because, again, he's the straw that stirs the drink on this team, and you saw his upside potential in those last 6 games of the regular season.
Basically, if you look at this, what this is saying in a lot of these way too early polls, and we'll see where everything goes at the end and when it's all said and done before the season, but the expectation around the country is that South Carolina is going to, again next year, compete for a college football playoff spot. And some of these folks are even almost telling you by picking them, for an example, preseason top 10, they should be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's typically what that means.
And that's expectation. I know around here that makes everybody really nervous. And I get it. But this is what you want. If you're Shane Beamer, you want this.
Oh, of course.
You want expectation that you're going to be in the college football playoff. This is what you've been building toward and climbing for, and all this work and sweat and energy to get to the point where people are expecting you to make the college football playoff. I wouldn't run from it. I know there are a lot of folks in this fan base. I get it. That PTSD, we've watched it. But this is what, if you're Shane Beamer, you're sitting around going like this. Yes.
This is what because again, last year nobody talked about you because you were 5-7. We talked about it at media days. Once you talked on Monday, nobody talked about South Carolina the rest of the week.
I was there, man, for SEC media days. Once South Carolina's day was over, nobody talked about South Carolina.
Nope.
It was done. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Don't forget today, the Schroeder's Towing Roadshow takes us to Craft and Draft in Irmo on St. Andrews Road with Jay and Elijah. Again, that's 3 to 6 at Craft and Draft in Irmo. All right, more football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Deion Sanders committed NCAA violations. Wow. Let's talk about that next on the halftime show here on The Game. halftime show, what we're talking about, we always do in a 1 o'clock hour. Football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the Game. Deion Sanders commits a recruiting violation. This is so funny. You know what he did?
What?
Deion, I want to read it just the correct way. He mentioned elite 2025 quarterback recruit Julian Juju Lewis, who is going to Colorado, by the way, during a live stream of his weekly coaches show. He did that in 2024. So he talked about a recruit who hadn't, signed a letter of intent to go to Colorado. So it's a minor recruiting violation. Colorado's athletic department self-reported, I love this, the incident, and has since removed the shows in question from the internet. And ready? They have imposed corrective measures, such as additional rules education for Sanders and a reduction of 4 in-person recruiting days.
Can I walk you through the rules education here? Hey, Deion, don't do that.
Okay.
All right, there's your education.
Let's go get something to eat.
This is one of the silliest rules in all of college sports. And, I get the principle of the rule because these guys are not a part of your team. They're not signed to university until signing day and all that kind of stuff. But, the way coaches have to be so vague when talking about the future players, guys that, they feel pretty comfortable knowing are going to be on their roster, it's ridiculous. What harm did that do? You know what I mean?
Well, that's how he got him. No, Tyler, no. Juju Lewis never thought about going to Colorado until Deion said his name in the live stream.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Gosh, before signing day, Beamer can say, "Oh, we've got some guys are really excited about to get on campus," and exactly who he's talking about. But the fact that he cannot state their name, even though there's pictures of them online, at the dude's house or whatever, picture him on the sidelines at their games. There's so many things about college sports that are asinine.
Yes.
And that's one of the ones that sticks out to me. We've gotten so used to it. We're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's so ridiculous when we read about these things. The NCAA is going to come down on Deion Sanders because he mentioned a guy's name in a live stream. And look, he probably knew the rule and just in talking about whatever he was talking about, slipped up and said his name. And again, it was a mistake. It happens. But, we got to have continuing education on how to do this. That's so stupid.
It's dumb. It's so dumb. And also, I got to find the school also agreed to implement new institutional controls on the football weekly coaches show.
They're not going to live stream it now.
Yeah. They're going to bleep whenever he says anything about about a recruit. Or they'll be like, it's like George Carlin's 7 dirty words you can't say on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Deion's 7 dirty things you can't say on the coach's show.
By the way, where's the line? Is it purely the name, or if you're we're excited about our quarterback prospect out of Florida we're hoping to sign here soon. Is that a violation, or do you have to actually utter the person's name?
It's just so
where's the line?
All of it is just so. And especially now, you know what makes it even sillier now? Even though I know, look, you have to have rules. I get it. But with NIL and the transfer portal, part 1, and part 2, we've seen, a few years ago, when these rules were still rules, you had college basketball coaches wiretapped by the bleeping FBI. And those guys are still coaching.
Yeah.
What happened to, there was so much evidence around certain coaches, but nothing ever happened to the programs. It just, so I can't take this seriously.
I can't either. And again,
I just can't.
The NCAA has lost so much power these past couple of years with NIL and the portal and all the lawsuits and stuff like that. So the fact that they're still clinging to this little itty-bitty bit of power saying, well, Deion said a kid's name that's not signed to that school yet. We got to come down hard on them. It just shows you how ridiculous all this has become.
Oh, sure. It's dumb, it's stupid, it's asinine. The whole thing is so unnecessary. But we continue down this path because the NCAA has to have some type of something to make them feel like that they have any power.
Here's the thing. What are you going to do? How are you going to punish Deion Sanders for accidentally saying a kid's name on a live? What legitimate punishment can you dole out?
I got one. Vacate wins.
Yeah, the second year of Deion didn't exist. I know they won 8 or 9 games or whatever it was, but you didn't see it. It didn't exist.
Get my little Men in Black pen out.
Travis Hunter's Heisman season didn't exist.
There is no Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Travis Sumner doesn't exist, I guess. It's so stupid. And again, the NCAA loses more power by the day, and any kind of microcosm of authority they can hang on to, they're going to. So, yeah, coming down on coaches and I get it, it was self-reported because, if we don't do this, they're going to come back on this eventually, so they may as well say something about it, and, they'll come down on us less hard, which, again, I don't even know what they can do to them at this point.
There's nothing that matters with any kind of weight. All right, NFL real quick. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Al Golden, who was in Cincinnati, I believe the linebackers coach for a couple of years, then took off to Notre Dame to be the defensive coordinator for the last 3 seasons, going back to Cincinnati now as the defensive coordinator. They needed a new one. They fired my buddy Lou Amarillo, the DC, who did a really nice job already. I'm going to hand you this plate of fertilizer. Make me diamonds. We can't pay defensive players anymore because we're paying Joe Burrow. We got to pay Jamar Chase and some other guys. So we can't really bring back all the defensive players that helped you. So we need you to basically take this fertilizer and make diamonds.
Then you throw your hands up. Why can't you do anything with that?
You're fired. Lou Amarillo, by the way, the new DC in Indianapolis.
Yep.
Al Golden will be the defensive coordinator in Cincinnati. Obviously, we have the NFC and AFC championship games this weekend. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We'll make our picks, Bills, Chiefs, and Washington and Philly. The coaching carousel still going on. Well, the GM carousel now in Jacksonville. Trent Baalke, the GM, gets canned by Shad Khan, the owner in Jacksonville. Now, when Shad Khan booted Doug Peterson, he said, no, we aren't, if we make widespread changes, that's craziness, that's stupidity. We wouldn't do that. We just need to get rid of the head coach. But Trent Baalke's here. He's the GM. Well, then the other day, Shad Khan and Trent were just sitting around kicking it. They were knocking beers and talking. Shad Khan's like, after having conversations with Trent, we both realized it's time for us to go our separate ways. So now you are causing all the chaos you said you weren't going to cause by house cleaning and sweeping changes.
By the way, now you're 2 weeks behind because you're already looking for a head coach. Now you're looking for a GM too, and it's kind of ideal to have a GM to help you hire a head coach.
Yeah, so now you don't have a GM, you don't have a head coach. And the GM said you said you weren't going to get rid of, you've gotten rid of. And look, I'm not a Trent Baalke guy at all. So it's not like I'm going, whoa, what a big mistake. Trent Baalke hired Urban Meyer. That's a fireable offense in itself. So it's not firing Trent Baalke. It's the fact that you stood up a few weeks ago saying, oh, no, we wouldn't do that. Trent's very vital and important to the organization. And a few weeks later, you're parting and going your separate ways.
You know what? I have a theory. He got access to Baalke's phone and deleted all the blackmail photos and said, okay, now I can fire him.
Right. Or can you see this? Because I don't look at Shad Khan as one of the better owners in the league. I really don't. I could see those two sitting around talking. And I can see like Baalke go, say, hey, Trent, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I saw you in your office knocking down some lunch. And Trent goes, yeah, I was kicking a sandwich. Oh, really? What'd you get? Just doing a little chicken salad. Really? Yeah. And you know what I like to do, Shad? What? Before I eat my sandwich, I like to peel off the crust. What? I peel off the crust. You what? And then Shad Khan sitting in his office just thinking about, do I really want a GM who peels the crust off his sandwiches?
Yeah. I also drink almond milk with it. Do I want an almond milk crustless sandwich GM?
This guy, it's obvious after that conversation, him and I just don't see eye to eye.
Because I get what changed? What in the past 2 weeks changes your mind?
This guy's been around 4 or 5 years. This isn't like, you're learning more things. I just... Again, you wonder why Jacksonville is the dumpster fire that it is.
You know what? They probably were in the facility bathroom at the same time and realized he didn't wash his hands afterwards. So, I can't have that guy around here anymore.
But you know what, though? Because not to go down this rabbit hole. When you're in the bathroom, and let's say it's someone you not work with, but let's say somebody you talk to in the office building, or you see them or whatever, and you're in the bathroom and you're washing your hands and they don't.
Oh, your whole perception of them changes.
You go,
I'm never taking food from that person.
Not going to shake
never
hands
shaking
with
their
them.
hands.
Because you start thinking about that. It's like, did I shake this guy's hand?
Did he prepare my sandwich at the last company get-together?
Right. All of a sudden, all these things just change, fair or not. I'm not saying it's right or fair, but it's human nature. You go, Well, Bro didn't wash his hands.
So I'm going to go with that theory.
Exactly. It was. It has to be something goofy, right? It just has
Definitely.
to. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll come back. Firehouse Sub, text the hour, 803-404-6100. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford, halftime show till 3 on the game. The first, we hope, of many Pro Swing Golf Classic with our buddies at Pro Swing and here at the game. 3-day event, January 30th, 31st, and February 1st. We will be there broadcasting our shows 6A to 6P on Thursday and Friday, January 30th and 31st. There'll also be a February 1st on Saturday where we won't be there, but the tournament will have its third day.
Well, you're going to be sleeping on the couch.
Yes.
And then they're going to have to shoo you away for the rest of the day.
Man, yeah, give me some more bonefish and just let me go to sleep. So, 3-day deal, $150 to register, a two-man team. Bookings are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Food's included from Bonefish. You can win $1,000 for first place, $750 for second, $500 for third. Plus, we'll be drawing Gamecocks baseball season tickets. Someone will win it just by registering for the golf tournament. You call Pro Swing 803-528-1617, 803-528-1617. Our first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. So that is coming up. And today, 3 to 6, Schroeder's Towing Roadshow at Craft and Draft, the post-game show 3 to 6 with Jay and Elijah, 7583 St. Andrews Road in Irmo. Go in there. Many, many, many wonderful craft beers. Check out our craft beer card. So that is today. The Schroeder's Roadie is at Craft and Draft in Irmo.
That's right.
All right, Firehouse Up, text the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler?
Albert says, let's stop sugarcoating it. Horrible basketball team, unacceptable to be this bad in year 3 of a regime. No excuses to be in the running for a perfect 0-18 season. Some tough questions need to be asked.
I mean, I don't think we're sugarcoating it. I mean, maybe to Albert we are, but I think, look, we've said you're 0-6, and that's who you are.
But there's a difference between being 0-6 and getting beat by 20 points in every single game and having 2 top 5 teams in position to beat them at home. Like, there's something there. They just can't close the deal.
No, they can't close. And they could easily be 1-5, 2-4, 3-3. Now, look, they got 3 losses. You can't walk those back. You got whooped. But again, you had a chance to win 3 games. Legit, it's not us making it up. You really had, at the end of each of these 3 games, between, again, on the road in Nashville against Vandy, the 2 home games against top 5 Auburn, top 5 Florida, you had a chance to win the game.
Yep.
If you could close it. You couldn't close it. So, yes, 0-6 is horrible on paper.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And look, if this was the world we used to live in, year 3 of having an 0-6 conference record coming off of an NCAA tournament run, I would agree you really have to see what the bleep is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But let's think about Missouri real quick. First year of Dennis Gates, Missouri, quote-unquote, shocks the world, wins 25 games, goes to the SEC tournament. Last year, a goose egg in the SEC. This year, they're ranked again. Part of this is the volatile world we live in with the transfer portal and NIL. You know, like again, and we'll talk more about it next hour. Nick Pringle, he's been okay. Not as good as Lamont Paris probably hoped. Jamari Thomas, he's been okay. Not as good as Lamont Paris probably hoped.
Yep.
The transfer portal can be a boom or it can be underwhelming. Last year it was phenomenal with Talon Cooper and the crew. So that's a mix, but I get where you're going, Albert. I'm not going to disagree with you that that 0-6 is horrible. But it goes a little deeper with some context.
For sure.
But look, they're not sugarcoating. How many other teams in the SEC haven't won a game?
None right now.
Okay. All right, back to football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Hey, Dave, real quick, I think we have time for this one. Cut 14. Tom Brady on The Herd with Colin Cowherd addressing rumors about leaving broadcasting. Hit it, Dave. Oh, Dave's on the phone. Never mind.
We'll try and get that next.
Yeah, we'll get it next hour. But it is interesting about Brady. I don't think broadcasting-wise he's anything special.
No, certainly not
in year
sharp
1
yet.
No, I mean, could he be really good as time goes on? Sure, he could. He could get better, work on his craft, things of that nature if he's interested in working on his craft. But right now, the only thing that makes him worth the money is the fact his name's Tom Brady.
Yes.
And I don't think he's a natural at it. Like John Madden was a natural. I think that, Troy Aikman wasn't a natural, but Troy Aikman worked out to it. I think Troy Aikman's the best now.
Yeah, he's great. I think the direct comparison between Tom Brady and Greg Olson, who he replaced on the prime Fox slot, is night and day because Olson's phenomenal.
Another natural.
And very crisp.
Greg Olson, another natural.
Tom, it's clunky.
He's robotic and clunky.
Yeah.
He's not, even when it was done, I said, we see Tom Brady in commercials, and whenever I hear Tom Brady interviewed, he sounds like a robot. Besides his name, what else is he going to bring to the table as an analyst? Because I haven't heard him be like super personable or anything like that. So,
Right.
All right, what's trending at 2 coming up? Sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry right here on the Halftime Show on the Game. All right, it's 2 o'clock. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Really cool contest we're starting up with Gamecock Traditions. It's called our Over-Under Contest. You can go to 1075thegame.com and look at a little flippy thingy on the top and look for Gamecock Traditions Over-Under Contest. Click it. Go to the fill out. You see, first of all, what we're doing the over-under on. Mm-hmm. You pick which way you're going. Then you submit your name, email address, whatever. And then you click that baby to submit. And it's simple. Like, for an example, for tomorrow's game between South Carolina and LSU, the over-under for the Gamecock women on threes made is 5.5.
Yep.
So you go over-under. So let's say you go over the total. I'm going to go over the total. Let's just say that. I believe that they will go over the total. If I'm right, I will go in the pool of everyone who's right, and Gamecock Traditions will pick a winner with a gift card.
It's pretty simple.
Very simple. So, or you can go to Gamecock Traditions website and fill out the form because they have a way to get to it right as soon as you go to the Gamecock Traditions website. So it's the Gamecock Traditions over-under contest here on the game. All right. Last night did not end well. 70-69. South Carolina loses to Florida, blowing a double-digit lead. And it was just, you know what it was like, Tyler? It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Because every time, once Florida started pressing and forcing turnovers, every time the Gamecocks got the rock, you were just waiting for the turnover, right?
Yeah, especially in those last couple minutes. And I guiltily thought to myself at one point before things really started falling apart that, man, are they going to storm the court after this? Because, again, does beating the number 5 team in the country warrant a court storming? I don't know. But when you haven't won a conference game yet and you upset a team in your own barn, like,
and the students are
going crazy.
everywhere.
Like, you wouldn't have been able to keep them off the court. And it was pretty soon after that when things started to unravel. I'm like, probably thought about that too soon.
Yeah, well, it's your fault. Then you ruined the juju.
You know, I'm sorry. I thought a 14-point lead with 12 minutes was safe.
Superstitious Tyler would look at you last night and go, hey, don't think about that.
Here's the thing. Up to that point, every time Florida did something, they answered immediately. Mm-hmm. They did not let Florida go on these long runs. It's like, oh, man, the tide's really turning. Like, South Carolina seemingly answered everything that Florida did for the first 30 minutes of the game. It's those last 9 to 10 minutes where things just went sideways.
Yeah, and here's the frustrating part of this. We're going to hear from Lamont Paris here in a minute. If you're Lamont Paris, you shot 49% from the floor. You shot 61% inside the three-point line last night. You also hit between 34 and 35% of your threes, which is above average.
Yep.
You shot a better percentage from three than Florida. You shot better from the field than Florida. You had more assists than Florida. Your assist-to-made basket ratio was better than Florida's. You out-rebounded Florida.
That's again, one of the better teams at rebounding.
You did all those things so well last night. You brought up how South Carolina played their tempo in their game, and Florida scored, 20 points below their typical average?
15. Yeah.
All those things you did right. You had the game in the palm of your hand, and you let it slip away. That's the frustrating part of the whole thing.
And now that we're 6 games into this, that's what your identity is. Mm-hmm. Because again, it takes things happening multiple times for it to just kind of stick, right? And you blow the game against Auburn by missing free throws, saying, okay, bad look, obviously. But now, and especially considering the fact that these are the kind of games that the rest of the league takes notice to. You know, if you're watching something else and you say, oh man, Florida's in a tight game. They've been trailing South Carolina. Let's see if Carolina can pull the upset. And you watch them fall apart down the stretch after seeing them do the same thing against Auburn the other week. Then the perception now is, Carolina's a team that just can't finish. Mm-hmm. There's a team that loses their fundamentals in the last couple of minutes of the game, and they can come close, but they can't get over the hump of beating anybody.
Yeah, and that's where you're at right now. I mean, and you are who you are. You're 0-6 in league play. Lamont Paris last night. God love Lamont. He is coming over to do his post-game interview at the end. And this is usually, it takes a little longer for him to get to Derek and Casey.
Sure.
He got to Derek and Casey, and you can even, I remember hearing Derek go, oh, we have Lamont Paris next. Like almost Derek was like, we got him quick. Okay.
Yeah, sure. And usually it goes to the studio, it's highlights, then Derek and Casey talk for a couple minutes, and then it's Coach Paris. Just like he was revved up and ready to go.
A lot quicker. And you can tell Lamont still had an edge on him after that loss because Lamont Paris typically talks slow and very deliberate in what he says.
Everything he says is calculated, thinks about it, pauses, those kind of things. Like we've come to understand his cadence. So when it deviates, you know something's up.
Here's and get to this, Dave, cut 4. Here's Lamont Paris with Derek and Judge Manning talking about how South Carolina should have beat Florida.
No, it's not easy at all. I mean, you've had your struggles. You've played well enough in a lot of games, if you look at it, honestly. And then here's another one where you played even better. You played even better. You did the game. The overall body of work in the game was such that we should have won the game. Period. That's it. You know, except for you didn't. We didn't take it. It was there for the taking. You know, we had to do some basic things that I think would have allowed us to win. Dribble real hard in one direction, cross half court, jump stop, pivot a whole bunch. If 2 guys are on your call timeout, find it to an open guy. There were some basic things like they're not known for pressing like that. They had to. It was their only way. It's the only way that they were going to do it, and the only way it was going to work is if we coughed it up, and we did cough it up. And we coughed it up right in live turnovers, right into transition, and even when we get into half court, we made some turnovers as we got frazzled. It just was, that was a tough one. It's a tough one. It's hard. Guys got to be confident again as they move forward, but what does that really look like if you're in that situation and you don't bring it to the finish line to have true confidence?
Yes. Did Lamont breathe in that whole minute 7?
If you told me he took a shot of espresso before that interview, I would have believed you because, again, he was going a million words a minute.
Yeah.
That's not him.
No, that was Lamont after like 4 Red Bulls, and it's just you can tell he was still obviously frustrated. Obviously annoyed, because you should be if you're Lamont Paris.
Sure.
And he just, he was teetering on probably saying some things that he would have probably liked to walk back like today. Because Lamont's very honest about things. Yeah. But here's Lamont, typically an honest guy, geeked up, and he's going, yeah, I liked at the end there. He goes, yeah, you want guys to have confidence, but after, basically you're in that situation and you don't finish the deal, how are you going to be confident?
Yeah.
I mean, he was not doing this. Yeah, there's some things we probably like to do different at the end, but I really like the way we fought, and I want to focus on that first 31 minutes, and we'll work on the last 9. No, he didn't have time to put that together.
And when you're in his position as a coach, again, you can't put on the shorts and sneakers and go out there and do it yourself. You have to put your players in the best positions to succeed. And again, it's not like they're not practicing passes or practicing free throws or practice. I'm sure he's drilling it into their heads. You've screwed this up. We need to get better at it. But for some reason, when it comes down to crunch time, they can't do these things functionally. And Lamont Paris doesn't have a lot of hair, but I'm sure whatever's there is he's pulling out because again and again, they keep screwing up down the stretch.
And I guess the example of this is think about yourself in life. And when you get sped up like this, whether you're angry, you're upset, whatever, and you just start just throwing up from the face, right?
Yeah.
You don't take a breath. You just start flying because you're frustrated, you're mad. Like, it's like my girlfriend called me about my youngest kid. And it's dumb, but in the context of life, we all have these things that at the moment matter to us.
Oh, sure.
But later on, you go, wow, that was dumb. Well, she makes homemade macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
And it's great. I mean, she does, oh my God, it's so good. And she's obviously not listening, so I'm not sucking up to her, but she makes great macaroni and cheese. So she was dying to have it because we usually have it for a day because she makes a lot.
Sure.
So she only had 1 plate full, and my youngest ate 3 plates the night she made it.
Yeah.
So I get her on the phone yesterday. I'm like, hey, babe, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I go, how's it going? She goes, well, let me tell you how it's going.
That's a good start.
So I was starving, and I was sitting around all day long thinking about dinner, thinking about having a plate of that macaroni and cheese. I only had 1 plate of it. You remember, our boy had 3. I only had 1. And I come home, and I sit down, and I walk in the kitchen. You know what? He's got the last plate. And he's eating the last plate. He didn't offer it to me, did he? No, not his mother. Not the one who gave birth to him. No. And she is nuts, right? Just like Lamont Paris. She didn't breathe for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
She's scorched earth, and she just went insane over macaroni and cheese. Because at that moment, that was the thing.
Now, what if he had refused to eat it at all? Same thing, just different.
Oh, flip it upside down.
Flip it upside down.
Yeah. I slaved for 3 hours. It took me to make that. I get cheese, and I'm outside churning butter, and
I go and milk the cow myself.
That's right. I made that cheese right from the udder. So you flip it upside down, she go crazy too.
Yeah.
I gotta go take a nap just doing that. I'm tired.
I get it.
But so that's Lamont after the game.
And I imagine, so they go back to the locker room, obviously, and that was fresh out of the locker room where I'm sure he said a lot of the same things to the guys in there and maybe used some words that you can't say on the radio to kind of get his frustration out. And I imagine, especially when you have a coach like Paris that's so calculated and so calm most of the time, when he does get riled up, I'm sure it has a profound effect on the players. Like, man, it really made him mad today.
And think about it with Paris that we've seen in this now the third year. I feel like he's a guy who is a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And when we hear him talk ball, when he's
calm,
he's very. I always love listening to Lamont talk ball because you learn something every now and then.
He gives whiteboard answers.
Yes, he does, and it's really good. So I think he's a teacher. And you hear about the players that we've talked to in these last 3 years. Lamont is a big teacher. So think about Lamont being a teacher and doing all the things they do in practice. I'm sure Lamont doesn't sit there and practice with these guys and say, okay, we're going to work on late game situations. We need turnovers and we need dumb plays. That's what we need. All right, we're going to work on turnovers and dumb plays in late game situations. Let's do this thing. No. And the players aren't out there going, you know what I want to do right now? I love to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
I want to miss some free throws. I want to take some goofy shots. I want to miss easy shots.
Yeah.
No. So everybody's frustrated. So you're the teacher, Lamont Paris, and your pupils and your students aren't applying what you're teaching. It's got to be driving you insane, right?
Yeah.
Because he's had 3 wins in the palm of his hand, and that team has had 3 wins in the palm of their hand, and they have let him slip away by doing things that are easily correctable.
This is the teacher that's very nice, very cool. Everybody likes him. That maybe the class takes a little too much advantage of him and is like talking during class or studying for a test. And then everybody like bombs the state test. And the next time he comes in my 25 years of teaching, I've never seen a class so utterly bomb a test like this. We're going to change some things around here. You're not going to be talking during my lessons and those kind of things. That's kind of the vibe I get from this. And here's the thing. At practice, they are probably doing these things pretty well. They're probably passing the ball well. They're probably making their free throws to where he says, okay, do that in the game. And then the game comes, especially in the late stages of the game, and it goes out the window once again. That is what is driving him crazy.
Absolutely. And it's just, and look, we're not going to sit here and say Lamont doesn't get his own share of the blame for this. Because, again, you're the coach.
You are the coach.
The buck stops with you.
You have to develop the players. You got to put the right guys on the court. Like, it's not all on the guys. But, again, he's not on the court.
Right.
It is up to them to execute at the end of the day.
And now what comes back to Lamont, and I'm sure he's done this because, again, Lamont's a teacher, is he's probably after that game, after he had his post game, and after he relaxed and calmed down his heart rate, went under 700 beats per minute. He went, okay, obviously what I'm doing is not getting through. What do I have to do different? It might be like you said. Okay, we're changing some things now. He's probably sitting around thinking, I've got to figure this out because how we're teaching it and coaching it isn't working.
Yeah.
That's where you earn your 7 figures. Right now for Lamont, because now Lamont, fair or not, A, this is your team. You collected together these players. And B, now you've got to figure out how to get to them so they will apply the teachings and the coaching that goes on in practice to late game situations.
You are to carry this basketball with you to every class today, and you better not let it hit the ground.
That's right. Zach Davis, you're going to dribble all over campus.
All over campus. If you see him not dribbling, let me know.
And I want students to try to steal it from him. We're going to get some more Lamont Paris coming up here from what happened last night. What's trending at 2, unfortunately, is a very rough Gamecock loss to Florida last night at CLA, 70-69. We'll continue on that. And what's trending at 2, sponsored every day by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford. We're rolling till 3 on the game. What's trending, too, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions, halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford hanging here up until 3. We're hearing some Lamont Paris, obviously a frustrated head coach after last night's debacle in blowing a double-digit second-half lead, 9 turnovers in the last 9 minutes. And Florida steals a win they honestly didn't deserve. South Carolina obviously should have bagged that W last night. All right, let's get back to a little bit of Lamont Paris, Dave. Let's go to grab cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's Lamont being asked, well, what now after this loss, dropping South Carolina 0-6 in the SEC?
You still lose, and there's nothing to do except for play. Sure. And that's it. You got to find it. I have to find it. I'm constantly looking into the rotations. I'm in there in the locker room after this talking about what could I have done. Could I have had, one of our stronger guys bring the ball up like Colin, but he is high in turnovers for us. I don't know if that makes sense, but against his own man, maybe it would have made some sense. I don't know. You got to pick yourself up, and you got to get to the next thing, right? I'm not going to stop coaching. We're not going to stop doing our thing, and they got to play. The games aren't going to stop coming. You have to play, and you have to get with your basketball gods. I say this all the time, your own personal individual basketball god, and make it right with him so that when it comes down to your abilities, you have true confidence in those things, right? It's one thing, this guy banked a shot in, and that's how we lost. The ref made a terrible call, and that's how we lost. When it comes down to your abilities, your ability to pass to a teammate, your ability to make a free throw late in the game, your ability, that's where your confidence in your heart of hearts is going to be shaken when you don't perform. And so I think there's some real challenges for some of these guys to have to search inward and look inward to find the true confidence that they need to continue to move forward. That's
such an interesting piece of audio from Lamont Paris for a couple of reasons. Let's start with look, Lamont's being honest here.
Sure.
A lot of coaches would say this, but you know what? These failures, they give you that scab you need, that the scars for success. And, failure breeds success if you keep working hard and you keep grinding and all those cliches. And I'm not saying those cliches aren't true, because they can be. Look, my dad, Dean Ford, always say, well, a mistake's only a mistake if you repeat it. If you don't, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
If you keep repeating it, you're a bleep up.
So you turned out all right.
I don't know about that. People would argue against you. But Lamont's being honest, and he's saying, look, we got guys who at the end of games aren't executing. Are they going to be able to get over this? Are they going to now lack the confidence to execute at the end of games because they haven't done it? And are they going to go the other way? Are they now going to, you think this is going to be the last team that presses South Carolina if South Carolina has a lead?
Absolutely not.
So what's going to happen the next time the opposition double teams you when you get the ball in the backcourt? You're going to pick your dribble up and get trapped? You're going to make a bad pass? You're going to make a bad decision? You're going to dribble it off your kneecap? Or are you going to make a play? Or are you going to calm down, and instead of speeding up and panicking, are you going to get in that zen from the basketball gods and make the right basketball play? Lamont is just being real because that is a thing. These guys are going to be teetering on one side or the other. Are you going to take the scabs and the scars of failure and use it to make you successful? Because a lot of times people will say you learn more from what you fail at than what you succeed at. Or are you going to fall into the funk of not having confidence in ever getting it right because so far you failed at it?
Yeah. No, you're definitely at a crossroads as right now. And again, I don't really know what much you're playing for right now because it seems like the tournament is not going to happen. Again, I don't think you're being picked up by the NIT or anything like that. No, theoretically, you could always run the table in Nashville and get in that way, but that seems like a far cry. But still, you want to put your best foot forward for these final 12 games because you still have an opportunity to maybe upset a good team. And again, with the way that you're playing, for the most part, against the Auburns and against the Floridas, shows you there's a blueprint there that when a highly ranked team comes into your house, you have the opportunity to beat them. And for as bad as this season may end up, if you can knock off a top 10 team at home and have people storm the court, there's at least a good memory to come away from it. So you have things to play for. It's just, have you gone too far? Was those last 9 minutes with the 9 turnovers last night the point where the entire team gave up? We're going to find out on Saturday.
I like where Lamont also took accountability because he has to. He goes, for me, I'm going to go in the locker room and think, should I have let Colin Murray Boyles bring the ball up? And then Lamont, you can tell he's just riffing through his head. Yeah, but Colin's got turnover problems. I mean, he's got the whole thing running through his skull as he's talking in the post game. And I loved that because you can tell the wheels are turning in his head. Okay, what did I do wrong? Should I have given someone else the responsibility to bring the ball up? Should I have, how should I have attacked that press?
Yeah.
How should we attack that pressure? So, I mean, everybody's searching. I did like the thing about you got to go to your inner basketball god and make peace with your inner basketball god. Is that sort of like a Major League?
Well,
Serrano in Major League?
Yeah.
Do you set up something in front of your locker to the basketball gods to make peace with them?
Can't hurt.
You know what? Right now, maybe you do like Dave's voodoo that ruined his life. Maybe you need to do some kind of voodoo cleansing in the locker room.
Yeah, but you got to make sure you read the entire description because clearly Dave missed something after the insert pin into voodoo doll because once the free trial expired after a year, it's been a rough go of it since. And so
Dave's had 40 years of relationship misery.
Make sure you fulfill the obligations. If you have to carry a voodoo queen up the mountain so she can drink from a pure stream river or something like that, make sure you do it.
But do it right. So maybe that's what you need if you're Lamont. Maybe to break up the everything that's going on. Let's do some kind of cleansing.
We'll keep an eye on FlightAware. If there's a private jet that takes off from Colombia to New Orleans in the next couple days, we'll know.
Bring in a voodoo doctor.
Exactly.
All right, David, there. Let's play one more here. Cut 9 from Lamont Paris, Dave. Cut 9, Dave, from Lamont, real quick. Not aggressive enough offensively. Again, cut 9, Dave.
We weren't aggressive. We weren't aggressive. They took the ball from us. We didn't use fakes. We were very passive in it. We weren't strong with the ball. We just weren't strong with the ball. Most of these turnovers weren't even aggressive turnovers necessarily. They're not known worldwide as a high-pressure three-quarter court turn you over. They had to do it because the situation dictated that they needed to do it. And normally if you handle that stuff, whatever the lead was when they put it on, maybe 11, whatever, 13, whatever it is, goes to 19. That's what I'm used to. You maybe get us once on it. We weren't expecting it. We see it. We make some good passes, strong moves, and we take advantage of it. That's what I'm used to. I mean, in at minimum, you manipulate it enough that it doesn't really impact their ability to score, right? Maybe it throws your rhythm off. Maybe your offensive possessions are a little more discombobulated because of it. But at that point, you probably also have enough points mathematically, again, to bring the ship home if you just don't turn the ball over in a way that they can score.
I mean, obviously, when you turn it over to them, not only do they get the opportunity to cut into your lead, but you don't get an opportunity to expand your lead. You can't run clock. You can't keep the game in your tempo and basically the way you want to play to dictate to the opposition. And the end of games, talking about failure at the end of games. I was taking a look at the 3 games South Carolina should have won and lost: Auburn, Florida, and Vandy. Florida last night, in the last 2:18, South Carolina's up 65-60. They get outscored 10-4.
Yep.
Florida was 3 for 3 from the floor, 2 for 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line. Florida was money in the last 2:18.
They're perfect.
South Carolina 1 of 3 from the floor, and the one was that Hail Mary by Zach Davis off the backboard that was a 3 when the shot clock was about to end.
Yep.
After South Carolina ran poor offense. 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Zach Davis went 1 of 2. 2 turnovers also by South Carolina, both by Zach. In the Auburn game, South Carolina was up 63-62 with 2 minutes to go. South Carolina then went 0 for 3, missed 3 layups, didn't take a three-point shot, and missed 2 free throws. They were 0 for the last 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Auburn, 1 of 2 from the floor, 2 of 2 from the line, stole the game at the end.
They're playing their worst basketball at the most important minutes of the game.
Colin Murray Boyles in that game did go 0 for 1. Colin Murray Boyles last night didn't get a field goal off in the last 2 minutes.
Yep.
Against Vanderbilt, 58-58 game, 2.5 minutes to go. Same type of thing. South Carolina missing opportunities, 2 for 4 from the line, 1 of 2 in field goals. Colin Murray Boyles did scuffle, 0 of 1 from the floor, 2 of 4 from the line with a turnover. Vanderbilt, though, 6 of 7 from the line. So that is what's going on in the last 2 minutes of these games.
Not great.
There you go. No. All right. The greatest day in the history of the world is January 22nd. We'll talk about that next here on the Halftime Show with Tyler Head and David Dare and Terry Ford here on the game. All right, time to check out the greatest day in the history of the world, which I said was January 22nd because I've got no idea what day it is.
Listen, it's another short week with the holiday and everything. It dawned on me today that tomorrow's Friday because I wanted to say Wednesday this morning.
Yeah.
So, you know what? It's okay.
Hey, I did 2 days of coming in here, running the board because we're.
Bill, Preston, and Jen make their triumphant return tomorrow morning.
Yep, they'll be in studio. Bill said, Bill said he's bringing donuts.
Now, how many donuts?
Oh, just for himself.
I bought myself a donut.
Yeah, I said I'm bringing donuts. I did. I brought 2 Krispy Kremes for me.
Typically, when you say you're bringing things, it's enough to share with everyone.
That's the way I would think. We'll see.
Like when Brian Glenn comes in, he brings a box of donuts.
It's stuff for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Glenn, man. Brian Glenn calls, by the way, and says, you guys, who wants something? Hey, Brian Glenn's great. Brian Glenn will call everybody and say, hey, man, you want something? I'm going to run a Dunkin' Donuts. You want anything?
Exactly.
So, yeah, Bill, I don't think Bill's making that phone call.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow. So, early game, back in studio tomorrow, and I can sleep in a little bit.
We used to have a guy who worked at one of the local schools, and he worked in the kitchen, and he'd bring us all the leftovers.
Oh, see, that's what happened to that guy.
I don't know.
Who would let him go?
If you're listening, come back.
Come back. We'll hire you. You just got to bring food. I remember there was a story, I forget who it was, some guy worked here back in the day too, who would bring in, he worked at some
Nabisco,
and he would bring in like
all
the good stuff from Nabisco. Again, where'd he go, Dave?
Here's 12 packages of Oreos. Y'all help yourself.
And it's like, absolutely.
That's great. My mom, for a period of time, actually worked as a school lunch lady, and like she would get a bunch of the leftover food. This was years after I had graduated school, and I was like, I wonder if this cafeteria food still tastes the same. It does.
I was thinking that. I was like, do you really want to bring that home?
Some of those things, like there were certain things in the cafeteria that did taste really good, but that was because you didn't have any other choice.
Well, here's my thing. How many times do you get in that line, and you're going through, and you're like, wow, that doesn't look like pizza. You sure that's pizza?
There was a few.
Oh yeah. My daughter kind of was down the line of us, but my son's school. Seriously, filet mignon for lunch? Really? Are we serious? If he ever complains about his lunch, I'm like, seriously, dude, I would put my fork in a Salisbury steak and it would go.
I say you got a butler and a servant coming to your table and
it's like, come
with
on.
wine glasses and all that kind of stuff.
Valet parking.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Friday was hot dog day, and the buns were hard as a rock on one side and soggy and wet on the other.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Well, and then Monday was a hot dog surprise, right?
There was no way this guy was eating a school lunch hot dog. That was not happening. I have no idea what in God's name was in that thing. I wasn't eating that. No. Not happening. Anyway, all right, January 23rd, greatest day in the history of the world. This day in 1944, the Detroit Red Wings beat up on the New York Rangers 15-0 to set an NHL record for consecutive goals in a game. You're like, wow, Tara, the Rangers must have stunk. They did. 1943-44 NHL standings, Rangers went 6-39.
At least they won
terrible.
6.
Yeah. Who did they beat the 6 times?
Good question.
The closest team to them, the Boston Bruins, were 19-26. So the Rangers were far and away the worst team in the NHL. It's only 6 teams back then.
I would say, did they have load management back then? Were they playing the backups in those 6 games?
It was awful. So, yeah, the Rangers were terrible that year. All right. Also, this day, 1979. I'm going to try not to get on the soapbox here. Just give me a few seconds. I'm going to move on.
All right.
This day in 1979, Willie Mays, who most people think was the greatest all-around baseball player in the history of the sport, Gold Glove defensive center fielder, hit over 500 home runs, could steal bags, had a bazooka for an arm, won a World Series, made an iconic throw in a World Series.
Yep.
There were 432 ballots for the Hall of Fame. Willie Mays was named on 409. There were 23, and I try not to name call as I get older. There were 23 numbskulls. There were 23 mental midgets who did not vote for Willie Mays.
But Terry, Babe Ruth.
Well, Babe Ruth wasn't unanimous. Nobody can be unanimous. I'm going to move on now.
And now we're in 2024 and using the same arguments for
Same ridiculous
Ichiro.
stupidity. Just ridiculous. Have we found out who the one numbskull?
No, because he'd have to go into witness protection.
Oh, yeah. It's just asinine.
And that's the thing is like there's anonymity. We're not going to find out who these people are. So if we knew the names of the people and how they voted, I guarantee you there'd be more unanimous selections.
Oh, sure, because you don't want to be the guy that didn't vote for Ichiro. How does that guy feel? Is he proud of himself now, or does he feel like a dope?
There's probably a bit of excitement from the exhilaration of knowing that other people don't know. Because, I bet the person that didn't vote for him is one of the people like, I can't believe somebody didn't vote for the guy. Because you make it obvious that it's not you, right?
Oh, sure.
Because the public's not going to be able to find out. So I can't believe somebody. What idiot didn't vote for Ichiro? It was you.
Right. But you're not going to admit everybody's going to say they voted for him.
Because again, they're going to say, oh, well, it wasn't that guy.
Sure.
He's calling it out.
You're not going to go, I was the guy.
Yeah. Sometimes the criminal returns to the scene of the crime. So if you make it obvious it wasn't you, they're going to start looking at other people.
What was that old saying, whoever smelt it, dealt it?
Exactly. Well, this guy didn't say anything about it. It must be him.
Right. And one of the great rebuilding jobs in the history of college basketball hit a level that took itself. It's the first level of the levels it took itself to win a national championship a few years ago. This day in 2008, Baylor, which had waited 39 years to get back in the top 25, played 5 overtimes to get their first win as a ranked team on this day. What Scott Drew has done in Waco is one of the great rebuilding jobs in the history of college basketball. If you ever have a couple hours to kill, watch a documentary on what happened at Baylor when the one player killed his teammate.
Yep.
And the cover-up and the things that went on there. It's unbelievable. Rock bottom was, it went past rock bottom at Baylor. Craziness.
Kentucky was after him pretty hard this offseason before they settled on Pope, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were digging around Scott Drew, and Scott Drew, it's just that rebuild and that grind to get them to the point when they finally won a national championship.
Yep.
It's just phenomenal. And when you hear the stuff that went on at Baylor, not just with the teammate killing his teammate, but the cover-up by the coaching staff and all the stuff that went on there, the documentary's phenomenal.
Baylor doesn't have a good track record with controversial things, unfortunately. And now, obviously, this one's the most egregious.
Well, ready? It's tough to pick between a teammate murdering a teammate and football players running around committing sexual assault.
Both terrible.
Neither one are good.
Neither one's good.
Neither one's good. Also, greatest day in the history of the world is January 23rd. Aaron Rodgers leads the Packers to an NFC Championship game win. The Pittsburgh Steelers win the AFC Championship, and the Packers, of course, win the Super Bowl in 2012. On this day in 2011, Packers and Steelers. And, of course, I think we can safely say that the Packers wasted Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay.
Yeah, to never get back to another Super Bowl.
Just never get back. And just, look, I understand you have a certain way you go about your business and a process, and that's fine, and I totally respect it because Green Bay's been very successful. But at some point, you've got to realize you need to deviate when you see the obvious weaknesses that are stopping you from taking advantage of a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yep.
That's my biggest deal with the Packers. One Super Bowl. Really, ready for this? The Packers only went to 3 Super Bowls and only won 2 despite having Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterbacks for 3 decades.
It's insane. It's truly insane.
It really is. On this day in 2015, Klay Thompson sets an NBA record with 37 points in the third quarter as Golden State took out Sacramento. Klay, 37 points. And finally, 2022, this game was insane. When Kansas City beat Buffalo in that epic overtime game,
yep.
Gabriel Davis scored 4 touchdowns in that game for the Bills, and no one ever talks about it because of how that game ended. Yep.
They lost.
Absolutely. Greatest day in the history of the world. We'll come back in here. We'll wrap this baby up with Firehouse Subtext, the hour 803-404-6100, and our handoff to the postgame show. Well, we'll just do it ourselves because they're not here. Sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine. That is next. Halftime show. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Fort on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext the Hour. Our handoff is easy. We're handing off to Jay and Elijah, who are broadcasting live from Crafton Draft in Irmo on St. Andrews Road. They'll be jumping in coming up next. So there's your handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine.
There you go.
Firehouse Subtext the Hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got, man?
Nameless texter weighs in and says, I think there'll be zero expectations next year for men's basketball.
Oh, absolutely. Texter is correct. There will be no expectation at all. Because there was, I mean, look, I don't think the fan base was expecting a repeat of last year.
Sure.
But they thought this would be a team that still makes it into the NCAA tournament. The feeling was, after what we saw last year, just for me, my feeling was this, that, are they there? Okay, who's there? Who's this? Who's this? Who's
Both
this
of
guy?
us.
Both of you. Wait, no, hold on. Elijah, wait a minute. Jay, have you left the house?
Are you okay?
Are you okay, Jay?
That's not how this works.
Are you in a safe space, Jay? Are you all right?
As far as you know.
Now, that was a long drive.
It was, man. It's like 15 miles out here. I may as well be going to bleeping Charlotte.
Now, yeah, I'm assuming nobody spilled a cup of ice in your driveway, so you were able to leave, right?
Man, you should see the patch of ice that I had to go mess with today. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Jay's lucky to be alive.
Glad you made it.
How like the whole driveway is dry except for like about a 20-foot stretch of it, where again the sun never hits. And it's I almost took a picture for y'all just to say, like, here's what I'm talking. I mean, it's still covered in snow. Like there's a section of my driveway that is still completely covered in snow.
Jay, extension cord and hair dryer.
No.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Or Dave found these in the old days. They buy these flamethrowers, Jay, and they just flame out their driveway, catch it on fire.
You know what? I'll let Dave handle the flamethrower. I'm not doing that either. No. And then I thought about, like, should I go put, like, some rock salt on it? But then I didn't feel like doing that either. So, but I made it. It's good.
Look at that. Look at that. Hey, by the way, Elijah, I lost the bet.
And y'all can keep it coming all you want. It ain't gonna change anything about me.
Well, listen, we're proud of you for owning it. How about that?
Absolutely. We are proud of you.
Ain't gonna change anything.
But you know what? The funniest thing is, maybe Elijah, you can make the face. When I first said, Elijah, Jay won't be here because of the weather conditions. Make the face for him. It's radio. Nobody can see it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good.
My dad even offered to give Jay driving lessons.
Well, I know how. Here's the thing. I know how to do it. We talked about this on the show last week or a week or two. Like, don't ride your brake. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
You must go considerably slower than the allotted speed limit on whatever road you're on. So it's not about me being unable as much as it is, because I told Elijah, I last time we had something that it was worse than this wasn't so bad, to be perfectly honest. But we had one a few years ago that was worse. And on Gervais Street, coming to work one afternoon, this is when I was doing the middays, and right before, I guess, Terry, you came to Columbia, maybe that winter before. And I watched like 2 wrecks happen on Gervais Street because of Nimrods. And then going home one day, a dude was like tailgating me and had to run off thank God my next door neighbors have like a yard that's you can drive up into without hitting like their house, because the dude was going like 30 on an icy road. I'm like, bro, that's your fault, not mine. Like, don't get off my butt.
That's dumb.
So it's not me. It's the other guy.
We have to include the context for those who don't know. Jay lives closer than all of us to the station.
Exactly.
That's the important part to remember here.
It's true. What was it? Elijah said you could have pogoed to work.
I could have. There's a few hills and vales to worry about, but yes, it is
hell of a quad exercise.
It is 2.0 miles from my driveway to our parking garage.
I mean, I was thinking about maybe sending the Cumulus chopper to come get you.
A dog sledding team from the Iditarod,
if we
perhaps.
Had one, that would be awesome. But I know what type of vehicles our company actually has. And
right, no
Chopper's
thanks.
not one of them.
I am better in what I have. So there's that too. But again, y'all can dump this as much as you want. I am perfectly fine with who I am. At my age and with what I have experienced, I am good with who I am.
You know what? Points for being comfortable in your own skin, Jay.
Yeah, that's what we love about you, Jay Phillips. Hey,
I tell you, people think sometimes, I say it, like I am very self-aware. You may not like it, but I'm very self-aware.
All right, so how many craft beers have you sampled so far?
None, and I probably won't now because again, I gotta drive like 6 hours to get home, man. I can't. It's a long way.
Here's the last thing too. Not only did Jay go through 2 days of a harrowing experience where he's lucky to be alive after a blizzard getting it over at his house, but now we've taken Jay out of his 5 miles of comfort.
Yes,
we've taken him to Irmo.
It's 15 miles.
I brought Jay a comfort blanket if you need it. What do you give dogs whenever it starts storming, like a thunder?
Yeah. The one that like gets them all nice and tight.
I hope you brought him a compass and a map too.
Oh my God!
Well, thankfully, the Siri maps and everybody got me here just fine.
All right,
actually,
fellas.
I know exactly where it is. So.
All right, we'll get off to you in just a minute at Craft and Draft on St. Andrews and Irmo. Post-game show's coming up with Jay and Elijah. That's coming up next. Fine work, Dave. Tyler, we appreciate it. Ed Bird's here to steer the ship for 3 to 6, by the way.